Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to introduce to you at the beginning of this session the presentation of the Yap Prize winners, the Yap Award winners, and they're going to be introduced to you by Peter Cassier. Peter is the social media specialist for GFAR. Peter. The microphone's not
to say my name and my title correctly, Jasper. That $100 is not very well spent, is it? Good afternoon. My name is Peter Cassier, and I would like to talk to you about agriculture research. Well, yes and no. I mean, agriculture research, it really, in the end, doesn't matter how good the crops that we grow. All the research on forestry, agroforestry, fisheries, livestock, in the end, if we have no farmers to grow the food, we will have no food. And even worse, if the young people from today are not convinced to work in agriculture, then 10 or 20 years from now, we're not going to have any farmers. And no youth, no farmers, no food, basically. That's why at CGIAR and Gcard, we take our commitment to youth, together with YPART, really strong to heart. And Gcard is no exception to that. At GCARD3 in Uruguay, we had 35 young people, young delegates, integrated as social reporters in the conference. And we said, this is good, but it ain't good enough. We need to do more. So at GCARD3, we said we're going to do better. We have 140 young delegates here, not only as social reporters, but also as full participants in the conference. They have been integrated in the regional consultations, in the national consultations, and are here as full participants. And we said, this is good, but it ain't good enough. We need to do more. So a couple of a couple of months ago, we said, let's do Yap, the Youth Agripreneurs Project. Yap is a pilot project to incubate agripreneurs projects from people around the world, young people who have an idea how to realize a project in the whole value chain of agriculture. And we were really pressured for time. We gave donors 2 weeks to pledge money. So thank you, IFAT, Agropolis Foundation, FAO, and 2 private donors, because you made it happen. Thank you very much. And then came the real moment where we got really scared. We said, oh my God, nightmare scenario. We're going to have 10 proposals. We're going to launch it. We're going to get 10 proposals. And we only had 3 weeks to launch because we had to get the people here and get the visas cleared. And in 3 weeks, we had 428 proposals from people all around the world. So we encouraged the public, the online public, to comment on these proposals. And we said, nightmare scenario, we're only going to have 10 comments or 20 comments, and these people are going to get disillusioned. But we had 116,000 people reading these proposals. They left 63,000 comments on these young agripreneurs proposals. So out of that public reaction, we made a short list of 40 people who were then selected down to 6 by a jury of development specialists, communication specialists, and scientists. From these 6 people, we have 5 here. Unfortunately, Anil couldn't be here because of visa. So from the 5 people, these are really the type of people, the examples of what we believe how the future of agriculture looks like. Let me introduce to you the future of agriculture, one by one. Let me introduce Kellan from Barbados.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kellan, and I make natural bath and body products. So you guys might be wondering why I'm present at such a forum related to agriculture. Well, in the region where I'm from, most of our farmers have great losses due to having, for various reasons. One reason might be that when they reap their crop and take it to market, the market is so saturated with that same crop that they reap little to no profit. That's where I come in. I provide these farmers with a diverse market to gain income and to encourage them to maintain and continue in this field we call agriculture. If you take a look on the screen, this is Carl. Carl is one of our many farmers we engage in to gain raw materials to make our beauty products. Because of this mutual relationship between Carl and I, he's able to produce 15 more gallons of goat's milk per month, which I utilize to make these beauty products. This is a type of story we want to have in this project. Why do I deem this project a success, and it will be a success? Because sustainability is the driving force behind this project. And when you mix sustainability with profitability, you're bound to win. My name is Kellan. I'm from the beautiful island of Barbados, and I would like to introduce to you the next Yap finalist from India, Nikki.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nikki, and I'm a dairy farmer from rural part of Northwest Indian state, Uttar Pradesh. I have got the good news and the bad news to share with you all today. The good news is that our Indian cow GCARD has been developed successfully by tropical country Brazil, which started importing our cattle way back in 1920s and has now emerged as a leading breeder of GCARD genetics in the world. Our GCARD cow has proved itself of superior milk yielding and disease resilient capabilities in its hot and humid climate. But the bad news is that we, ourselves being hot and humid country, completely neglected our own breed. In order to increase milk production in India, our policymakers emphasized completely on exotic breed, Holstein Friesian, which comes from colder regions of Europe. Majority of dairy farmers in India rear Holstein Friesian cow to produce milk. And I, myself being a dairy farmer, understand how we are all the time trying to alter the environment to suit these cows of colder climate. We are spending too much on fuel, feed, water, and electricity so that these cows can perform well. This is not sustainable agriculture. We are wasting our scarce resources. And milk production in India is becoming increasingly costly affair for dairy farmers because these exotic cows are so difficult to maintain. We need solution. We need to start taking corrective action right now. And here I have my project. I will be working on developing the climate resilient indigenous GCARD breed in my country. I will breed the GCARD cows with the best available genetics from Brazil. I want to make dairy farming a happy and healthy venture for our community. Thank you so much for listening. And now I invite my Yap colleague, Josine from Philippines. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nikki. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Josine, an entomologist from the Philippines. And I'm here today to offer you a very simple solution to a very pressing problem. But first, I want you all to think about something. 11 million tons. According to research in the Philippines, that is the amount of rice that we lose every year to pest damage during the post-harvest and storage process. Now in the Philippines, the most common method of control is chemical. But there's a problem with chemical control. It's expensive, it can be toxic, and there is pesticide resistance buildup. Hopefully, my project will reduce, if not completely eliminate, these problems in the future. My Yap proposal is called the Mechanical Pest Removal System, or the MPRES for short. It is a machine designed to target beetles and weevils, which are the two of the most important post-harvest pests, not only in the Philippines, but worldwide. It is a very simple machine to operate. You simply load pest-infested rice into the main compartment, which has perforations at the bottom, And using simple, very simple physics and gravity, the machine will separate the pests and the eggs from the rice into a pest catching tray at the bottom. And at the end of your process, you have safer and cleaner produce. But you know, what really excites me is that this machine, it's not just for rice. We can design it so that it can be used for other staple crops, maize, other grains, seeds, pulses, and maybe even livestock feed in the future. Now this machine, it operates on 3 very simple principles. Number 1, it's purely mechanic. You have no expensive or complicated circuitry inside, making it easier to produce and easier to maintain. Number 2, it's organic. We will not be using any chemical pesticides to remove or even kill the pests during the whole process. And finally, it's manual. As you can see from the illustration, it's powered by a foot pedal. So you will not need any expensive fuel or even electricity to run it. So even in the most rural farms, it can be applicable. But it can also be scaled up to an industrial scale. So let me repeat that for you, and I really hope that you join me here. Mechanical, organic, and manual. Thank you. We can even make that simpler. Let's call it the MOM principle. MOM, yeah. So with your help and support, let's take back this 11 million tons of food away from the stomach of these bugs and back into the stomachs of the people where it should be. So thank you. Thank you so much for listening to my proposal. And I hope that my machine and I were able to impress all of you. So now it's my pleasure and honor to introduce my fellow Yap finalist, Joni from Ethiopia.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Joni, making money from honey. I'm from Ethiopia. Today, regarding my project, I need to tell you 2 news. The bad news, the challenge we have in rural area, and the good news. The bad news is, these days in rural Ethiopia, we have big unemployment because of shortage of land. We don't have land to give for the use. So this creates great migration to the cities, even to the Middle East. We are using our ewes eaten by shark in the sea. The good thing is we have huge potential of organic honey production. Now we are the first in Africa, 10 years old in honey production. Again, there is increasing demand on international market for organic agriculture. So my project is to kill this bad news with good bullet of opportunities. So my project is to work with these rural unemployed youth to be engaged in organic honey production in natural forest area. So my project supports them to be organized from the rural area and those from graduate from agricultural universities. Even those graduate in agricultural universities, there is a big problem to hunt for the job. So I need to link them together, organize them to have their own commercial bee farm to produce organic honey. I supported them in capacity building, having nice coaching system and paying for their organic and fair trade certification scheme, so that I can have honey from them to export to European market. Currently, I have a contract on my hand to sell my honey on the European market. This is the sustainable organic honey production system which best work for the rural use. I have a slogan for my business: no tree, no bee, no honey, no money. Anybody who have ambition to see the rural peoples working in the rural beautiful area, please support my idea. Let us work together. Thank you. Let me invite my Yap finalist, Lilian from Kenya. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to draw your attention to the image on the right side of your screen. This is Magadi, Kenya. Take a good look. It is said that a picture paints 1,000 words. So what are some of the few hundred that come to mind? I can bet you that some of those are dry, arid, hot. In short, any single term that would be used to describe a desolate wasteland. In 2011, the greatest drought in 60 years hit the East African region, causing an influx of refugees into Kenya and a depreciation of quality of living of 9.5 million people in Kenya. But what if I told you that the notions on extreme temperatures and deficiency in water could be turned on their head? What do I mean by that? Now take a look at the second image. I am going to make that possible. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lilian from Africa Jilishe. Africa Jilishe is a Swahili term to mean Africa, feed yourself. In the second image, what you are seeing is a bottle greenhouse. And how does that function? Very simple science. Water vapor is transpired from plants, cooled and condensed back into water for sustenance. Using my engineering background, leveraging on that, I am going to scale this up and design self-sustaining smart greenhouses. But what do I mean by that? It's very simple. One, this greenhouse is climate controlled. Two, this greenhouse cuts down water requirements by 95%. And three, this greenhouse, well, just think of it as a plug-and-play option for people living within these regions. So what is the impact that we are looking at? Number one, imagine an Africa where those food marginalized people are able to elevate themselves into a status of economic empowerment through improved living. A place where those women who have been burdened by domestic chores can be elevated to the status of domestic, my apologies, can be elevated to the status of breadwinners. That is a future that Africa Jilishe is promising in the event that we are able to adopt climate-smart agriculture. In the words of Dr. Sibanda, let us not make climate-smart agriculture the business of only farmers, but the business of all. Thank you very much.
Can I get another round of applause for all our 5 Yap finalists? What a great, great job they did. Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Kovacevic and I'm YPARD's mentoring coordinator. This is one of the programs, one of the many mentoring programs that YPARD is currently supporting. And a couple of months ago, Peter Cassier sent me an email saying, would you like to be involved in designing a program to help these young people scale up their project ideas into something that can be tangible impact? And of course, YPARD said yes. Over the last few days, these young people have been in intensive training to help them build the skills that they need to make an impact on the ground. We had the wonderful Daisy Uya from ICRAF helping these guys turn their ideas into 2-minute pitches, which is a really difficult task, and I think they did an amazing job today of doing that. We had Pauline Bommett and Wanjiru from Award helping them to develop the qualities that they need to get the most out of a mentoring relationship. And we had Bill Downing providing these young people with invaluable business, financial, and legal advice. Can you all join me in thanking Daisy, Wanjiru, Pauline, and Bill and their organizations for understanding how important it is that we invest time and wisdom in our younger generations. Thank you so much. So where next? Over the next 12 months, these young agripreneurs, plus Anil from Nepal, who couldn't be here but is joining us on live stream. Hi, Anil. These guys that you have just met will have access to the ongoing support from the Yap, as well as a community of advice and guidance from mentors. This will help them to build the leadership skills, the technical skills, and the business skills that they need to make an impact on the ground. And I know you'll agree with me that these 6 young people are incredibly deserving of this kind of support. But I'm going to share a secret with you, and something that makes my job really difficult. And that is the fact that we only have resources to support 6 of these young people at the moment, when I know for a fact that there are many, many more incredible ideas amongst the 428 proposals that we received. If you don't believe me, take a look for yourself. The website is up on the screen. We've talked a lot at this conference about engaging and supporting young people. We need to continue our commitment to these young people, and that's why we want to take Yap to the next level. We want to meet people who can give us access to funding networks and resources so that Yap can continue to support young people to realize these ideas. These 5 young people and hundreds more, thousands more out there need our support. If you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself that you could be one of those people who can help us get a foot in the door with some of these organizations who could support this program, please come and see me after this. I'll be at the YPARD booth the whole afternoon. Alternatively, you can contact me by email at michelle.kovacevic@ypard.net. I'd like to finish up with a quote by Margaret Mead, who is a cultural anthropologist from the US. She says, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." Ladies and gentlemen, as I'm sure you've seen today, please have no doubt about it, that we are changing the world, one Yap at a time. And now I'd like to please invite Jasper Reese back up onto the stage to report back from the Thematic Session Chairs.
We were going to do something, but she wasn't in the room. Fiona. None of this, what you see here with the young people, would have happened without this lady. They call us their mom and their dad. Isn't that a nice picture? Fiona, thank you very much. This is for the Yap program, as well as for the youth involvement here at Gcard, and just as well, probably for GCARD3 as a whole. Thank you very much, Fiona. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter. That concludes the Yap presentations and process, and we're going to move on now and address the work that you've done over the last 3 or 4 days within the GCARD3 process. So I'm Jasper Reese. I'm a Group Executive for Research and Innovation Systems at the Agricultural Research Council in South Africa, although I do sound very British to you because I am very British. However, for my sins, I found myself accidentally chairing the Global Programmatic Task Team because I got up for a conference call at 4 o'clock in the morning in San Diego. And I advise you not to do this in the future. If you ever find yourself asked to do a global conference call at 4 a.m., just set the alarm for 6 a.m. However, it's my pleasure to introduce to you the chairs of the Global Task Team. We have here today the chairs of the thematic sessions. We have here today the chairs, the co-chairs, and the rapporteurs. And I think many of you have been in individual thematic sessions. Some of you have been in a single session throughout. Some of you have split between sessions and processed between sessions. I hope everybody has participated in sessions. We deliberately held this in Birchwood, not in Sanson, because the shopping malls here are not very exciting, and therefore you can focus on your conference. And so we're going to undertake a process of report back on the process of outcome development that you've been involved in within the themes, and then after that, my Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Shadrach Mapudi, will present the framework within the outcomes are going to be to dealt with and managed. So I'd like to invite up to the stage the 5 thematic co-chairs, of whom I know 4 are in the room at the second, and I know Jethro skipped out. Judith Francis? Is Patrick going to be on the stage? Judith is going to be on the... Judith, are you going to come to the stage? Patrick and Judith have co-chaired the session. They now are going to make a little decision about who's going to be there. From theme 2, Thomas Price. From theme 3, Astu Yai. From theme 4, already migrating onto the stage, is Jethro Green. And from theme 5, Iman El-Kafas. So the process of developing a program for this event took us from 4 a.m. in San Diego in the middle of January until the last, literally, minutes, it feels. And so what we're going to do is to report back on the process that we undertook. Many of you have participated as catalysts. I hope all of you have participated as participants within the process, and each of the thematic processes in the last 3 days have been run in slightly different ways, but with the intention of bringing outcomes that will speak to the process that GCARD3 is designed to achieve. And what I want to do is to pass over to Patrick as the chair of Theme 1. Now, it's been a long conference, and you're all exhausted. So in order that you can't fall asleep and wake up and find out what we were talking about, we are going to present orally, because we decided you didn't need slides for this. Now, in due course, Shadrach will present a full set of slides that integrate this into the global framework. But for where we are now, Patrick, you're going to cover Theme 1 from start to finish, together with Judith, or Judith together with Patrick. Okay.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Not only me, we did everything together with Judith, and there's no way by which this would change right now, so we will do it together. Can I have the slide? No? No? Okay. No? No slide at all? Okay. Okay, if I make a brief summary of what we've done, but okay. No? How's that right? Sorry, I'm waiting for one slide, only one slide. No? No, but I can. Okay, when it comes, I come back to the slide. But I wanted to make you and to share with you a very brief summary to begin with, just in case after lunch you leave us. But I come back to that. How we did? We did, first of all, a very gradual process to share together everything. We set the scene, and the scene in the first step was to share the huge challenge we have to face and address. I will not be long on that because we've been talking quite a lot, but there is a big challenge for agriculture to change the world at scale, and we all know about that. And 2015, with the summit in Addis Ababa, in New York, and in Paris, are therefore remember that. But in the same time, a huge challenge for science to contribute to that. And we then get all the pieces of the cake and the ingredients. We begin with a debate on what is about scaling up, out, trans, and so on, and how to measure. And it was not only a rhetorical or theoretical debate, but it was a way for us to account for the fact that change does not only proceed from extrapolation everywhere of some local success stories. Development is no fractal, nor a linear process. So through case studies and global initiatives, what we checked is what should be taken into account in order to scale innovation and to address the challenge. First, to identify the expected ambition at the level we want to impact, and to look at alignment across scales, even if it's not for upscaling, but for downscaling, a political injunction like the one of Cadpo-Mill. Second, the need to anticipate as far as we can innovation and scaling by ensuring the adaptability of a research method, process, or technology, by preparing the innovation process. And that was the case, for example, with orange flesh sweet potatoes varieties in Malawi, very nice example. And where it shows that what is essential is the process, not necessarily always the technology. Or then by anchoring the process in both local, specific, and global context. And then, through case studies, to identify conditions to make it impact from the design of research. We have to take into account partnership, capacity building, monitoring and evaluation, and learning, which was shown by the sorghum case studies. And then we shared experience aiming at better understanding innovation systems and causal mechanisms along impact pathways, how research contributes to the development of outputs, outcomes, and impact through interaction with and among the stakeholders and partners, and how research goes beyond its classical role of providing technology and may produce actionable innovation related knowledge. And then we organized roundtable to learn from that, and then a second roundtable based on overcoming barriers examples to suggest innovation and to move forward. Conclusion. First, huge paradox. On the one hand, agriculture is at the nexus of planet-burning issues, and we want to impact at scale. There is an urgent need to impact at scale before it's too late. We all agree on that. Easy. But on the other hand, most of the innovation that we are talking about are implemented at the local scale, very often local specific way. How to deal with such a paradoxical challenge? I could have said now in the plenary, we need more resource and funding. We need more support and political will, what we often call the enabling environment, as if it was outside our scope. We need coalition and partners. What for? Because we have many technologies on the shelves that are taking dust, because we have to push them into practice, because we have to scale up and out evidence of success. I could have said that. I could have said that and then finished my presentation right now. But then it would have been business as usual. And we need much more than that. We need much more than business as usual if we want to take it seriously and address this paradox, especially because there are quite a lot of tension between the local and the global. And in order to address the which problem we talked about in opening sessions 2 days ago, and to impact at scale, we need to look at innovation system with different angles and acknowledge, first, their complexity with interaction between many local specific drivers, biological, technical, institutional, whatever. Most often, innovation implies multiple levels and multiple stakeholders involved at each of these levels. And therefore, the question is no longer to scale up or to scale out local, which are very often not reproducible success stories, but the challenge is twofold. One, to promote the necessary multi-scale setting and actions for innovation, sometimes beginning in a change in the national land tenure legislation, for example. And second, to learn from multiple scale settings to adapt them elsewhere and at other scales. So we need to rephrase completely the scaling up. Innovation is a long-time process, and we cannot only look at it within the funding mechanism today available. Very often, and I then share key messages, importance of use and capacity building, looking at the future, and importance of accountability. On top of that, to conclusion, since innovation is quite often trans-scale, we should move from upscaling to organizing trans-scale to impact at scale. Second, we need to explore better the links between innovation and impact, in particular with external drivers, and interaction with policymakers are crucial. And there is one very strong conviction: scaling is hard to be planned, and sometimes just occurs by chance. However, it's possible to be prepared and facilitated. And on this basis, we can draw some principles. First one is innovation is an issue that deserves being better understood for alchemy to be organized. Complexity is no longer the enemy. There are no silver bullets and no one-size-fits-all solution. And innovation engineering should be encouraged through a consistent involvement of relevant players and scales, and by taking stock and looking at past experiences, in particular failures, which are very often omitted, not to reinvent the wheel. Agriculture policy research should be also promoted, and we should develop a culture of impact, and Judith will come back to that. Are there too many resources for that? Some would argue, yes, it's a high transaction cost, it's a heavy burden, we cannot do that. I would just oppose that and say that if we don't take it seriously, nothing will happen.
So, thank you, Patrick, and ladies and gentlemen, not to keep back the others from presenting, our key messages. Our priorities remain food and nutrition security, climate change, green economy, or non-renewable energy, jobs, new business. When we're talking about impact, we are talking about economic impact, environmental, social impact. But it is important at all levels, local, national, regional, global. But within our group, we said we must impact at the level of the smallholder farmers. Scaling up, we need to know the tipping points. Do we know the tipping points? Can we identify? We should. What will we be scaling up? We said we can scale up, scale out, transcale research, the process itself, the outputs, for example, the technologies. How? By alignment and partnerships. And one of the strong recommendations that was coming out of our group is that working with civil society, because they have their hands on the ground, it means that researchers and civil societies, organizations could have the impact we want at scale. But then we also need to work with the policy and translate some of the learning into academic programs so that we can continue to have sustainable scaling. We will not forget monitoring and evaluation. So we need to document success and failure, analyze both so that we can continue the process. So the key words coming out of our session were research, innovation, partnerships, capacity building, learning, communication, and accountability. We have 3 collective actions, and we said, 1, it is develop the culture of impact assessment. So we need to develop the culture for analyzing impact. We also need to build and invest more in research, and we wanted a strong focus on youth and policy. And last but not least, embed research into innovation systems, and we think that the brokerage angle is the main entry point. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Judith and Patrick, for theme 1. We're going to continue straight into themes 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we will take questions at the end. So I'd like to invite Thomas Price and Danush Dinesh to present theme 2 from the stage.
Good afternoon. So we will be speaking to theme 2, which marries very well with the preceding theme, since we'll be discussing our discussions on showcasing results and demonstrating impact. And you may recall that there was a particular outcome, as was the case for all themes, for this theme. And I'll quote, "Capitalization of evidence and experience in measurement of impact and returns on investment to national research for development systems," let me underline national, "applied to increase capacity to deliver on agri-food innovation." And in order to accomplish that, we organized in actually 3 steps, 3 stages. We had a panel of catalysts making provocative and interesting presentations in a very short period of time, followed by roundtable discussions, where each roundtable came to proposals for at least one collective action as we go forward over the next few years. as part of the Gcard process. And then a sharing of those experiences amongst the tables. Then we went on to the next set. So what were those topics that we covered? One was how, in the light of contributing to achievement of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly SDG 2 on hunger, food security, nutrition, and sustainable agriculture, we looked at measurement and demonstrating impact. Second, we looked at the tools and methods in measuring agricultural innovation, with particular intention to inclusion of farmers, women, and youth, which are represented in our session. And finally, demonstrating impacts, particularly at the national level and even subnational level. So to introduce our topics, our discussions, we had 14 catalysts that provided cases and evidence from different sectors, different groups. We had networks that were directly working with organizations and were organizations, represent organizations of farmers and local level groups in rural areas, youth networks, women, including those building capacity and policy for young professionals, research, global, regional, national, and investment institutions. And that's not all. And we included examples and speakers, interveners, panelists, those participating in the roundtables from Asia and the Pacific, Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean. So what were a few of the lessons that we learned as we were exchanging both the catalysts speaking and interacting from the assistants, as well as in the roundtables themselves? Well, we noted that there were several strong analytical conceptual frameworks. They were presented, and also ex-ante models for measuring change. For example, in ecosystem services, a very interesting example on calculating ecosystem services in multiple ways, social, environmental, cultural, as well as economic, and how these metrics match to the Sustainable Development Goals. However, we did note that there are relatively few actual impact studies of completed collective actions. Just to give you a sample of the kinds of interventions we had AWARD, which I think many, if not all of you already know, the African Women in Agriculture Research and Development Program, which presented. We also had ProLinova, promoting local innovation in ecologically oriented agriculture and natural resources management. And a very interesting example from Uruguay about how they translated, in effect, really an alliance between national research, government, and farmers in going forward on how research can really demonstrate its real impact for farming communities. So the models for impact uncovered a huge range of scales, as you probably could gather from that, looking from individual agency to tracking change at national level and their relationships to the Sustainable Development Goals as a complex set of indicators. We felt there was a danger, however, that we may be pushed to develop highly complex indicators in pursuit of measuring change of the Sustainable Development Goals, while still struggling often with the simpler ones. So, in the case of agricultural research, we are looking to measure impacts in poverty reduction, but often the basic data about adoption of new technology is not reliable. So now all of that, I'm talking about the lessons learned, and my co-chair, Dinesh, will speak in a moment to our specific recommendations. We've translated into what you will see very soon with Shadrach, what we will see as our outcome statement. So you can imagine all of this, which is only a summary, a very short summary of 6 hours of discussion of many people, which I'm sure will be well reflected in our summary report, which will be larger, of course, than the outcome statement, as well as the other documents made available through the conference process and the conference site. We boiled it down to this: develop a common public evidence base and the new mechanisms required for demonstrating diverse impacts and returns on investment in national and international agri-food research and innovation. And specifically, we will build on the lessons learned from past successes and failures, on analytical and conceptual frameworks, and implementation at different spatial and temporal scales to contribute to measuring progress towards the SDGs. But that's still quite a high level. So we agreed, and actually there's a very strong call from some of the tables, that we have to be accountable for some very precise, specific actions, collective actions, as we go forward as part of the Gcard process. So we have a challenge of capturing the richness of this, but also the commitments, carrying forward precise, specific, and time-bound commitments to collective actions in the coming months. I will say coming months, not even coming years. These aggregates are multi-stakeholder, and as we pursue the Gcard process, we will surely need to precisely articulate these commitments and the concomitant actions with a timeline. Now, for recommendations, I'll pass on to Danush.
Thank you, Thomas. I might actually take a slightly different approach to explain to you how we've dealt with some of the recommendations that came up in the course of the 6 sessions that we had. So, as Thomas mentioned, we have the Gcard outcome statement, and within which we've proposed 3 outcomes from this thematic area, or collective actions from this thematic areas. So drawing upon all these recommendations that we received, we've developed 2. I'll read them out because you don't have that on screen here, and then explain to you what it actually means and what were the discussions that enriched or led to these collective actions. So the first collective action was to contribute to national measurements of progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals and build national capacity for integrated measurements, engaging diverse stakeholder groups, including farmers, youth, and women. So this is one collective action, and which will be in the framework document. So what led to this collective action being determined? And in the course of the discussions and the presentations, what came out was, I heard some of these words and I noted them. One was around inclusion, and inclusion of youth. We've talked quite a lot about that. Inclusion of women, because it's not like, measurements, demonstrating impacts, it's a kind of tools and methods. No, it's not that. It's also much broader, and it needs to be very inclusive. And when I say inclusive, I also mean including different stakeholders. We focus on nations, countries, because countries report against the SDGs, but we also want to focus on the subnational governments, and we had examples from Western India, for instance, of subnational approaches. And we also want to focus on bottom-up approaches led by community-based groups and farmer organizations as well. So we need to be inclusive. Second thing that came out is diversity. And here I don't mean diversity of stakeholders. What I mean is diversity of approaches. So over years of agriculture research for development, we've developed so many approaches, many of which were shared. They're bottom-up, top-down, qualitative, quantitative, you name it. It's all there. And there is no one single approach that we should adopt in the context of the SDGs. And it's important to maintain this diversity and indeed make it even more diverse if possible. The third thing is what Thomas has already mentioned, is actually to build on the lessons learned, both successes and failures, and I think the theme 1 also mentioned this, and not reinvent the wheel. And this one I really like is about staying real, because we don't work in a perfect world, unfortunately. And what you can measure, there are limitations. The environment in which you operate, there are limitations. So don't be actually thinking of the SDGs as something which we struggle to meet, but try to measure what you can, demonstrate the impacts that you have, and have a bottom-up approach to actually contribute towards the goal. One more thing on this is the role of capacity development. It came out quite strongly that countries will need quite a lot of capacity support from the research community to help report in these indicators. And there is a very important role that each and every one of you has to play in this. So that's the second collective action. And emerging from this, there's something very concrete, and I really like this one. It is to create a platform to harmonize agriculture-related indicators linked to the Sustainable Development Goals in order to improve collective action for impacts. And why I really like this is very specific. It is something which we can really work towards in the time that we have until the next GCARD conference. And also because so many engaged stakeholders came forward to actually commit themselves to this action. I would like to mention that some of my colleagues from the CGIAR, from Roots, Tubers, and Bananas, and from IFPRI, and others, colleagues from Prolinova, ACIAR, and others have actually committed to this action, and you'll read more about it in the report. So it's really great. So I think that's my summary about the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Danish. And we wish to thank our dear reporters, Graham Teal and Sikalozo Dube.
Thomas and Danush, thank you very much for theme 2. And our chair for our theme 3 is Asatu Yai. She has been co-chaired by Shobha Shivashankar and Wayne Powell. Shobha and Wayne, are you coming up or are you sitting in the audience? Okay, if you'd just like to stand up and at least be acknowledged by the audience, Sean and Wayne. Okay, Asatu, over to you.
Thank you very much, but I think my co-chairs should come over here, please. Shobha and Wayne. Where is Wayne Powell from the consortium, and Shobha from ICRISAT. And I think I want them to be here because this is how we see the way science should be kept relevant and future focused. We have me representing developing institutions and countries, and strongly backstopped and supported by international research institutions. So I think this is a good collaboration that we want to see for the future. So I would like to first introduce quickly our theme before leaving the floor to Shobha to explain a little bit the expected outcomes and the process we use before we allow Wayne to come in and explain more deeper our thinking around the theme. So in today's fast-changing world, how do we ensure agricultural research, how do we ensure that agricultural research keeps up with the new advances in science? What do we need to do to build the capacity of our institutions and of our people? So these were the key questions around which we turn all our discussions. So I would like to allow Shobha to come in, present the outcomes, okay. And after I'll come with our message.
So for the theme 3 outcome, we had to start out with in the program, adoption of measures to keep science timely and relevant, shared with commitment to identify and apply new ones. Also, agreement on immediate collective action to scale out best practices in capacity development of national systems. We had 6 sessions within the theme, including presentations and group discussions, roundtable discussions. The central theme of our discussions was capacity building in multidimensional, multidisciplinary approaches that brings in entrepreneurial skills to the young generation, alongside of soft skills of leadership, group team building, communication, and the necessary full package that goes towards being successful in the future, in the face of the grand challenges. So With that in mind, the main point that we emphasized was the fact that we have fragmented efforts that go towards developing capacity in the form of undergraduate, postgraduate, or PhD studentships, and also vocational guidance programs that are fragmented and not cohesive enough in order to give a full outcome of a comprehensive picture that would flow towards realistically addressing the grand challenges. So with that in view, we are proposing a unified approach on the basis of all of the discussions that we had. And an example of the fragmented efforts that I can say is we have programs. Dryland Cereals proposes and runs a PhD program that is supported and administrated through Reforum, Apari, and Walkie. And Grain Legumes administers a similar program in association with the Feed the Future Labs, Innovation Labs for Grain Legumes. But these are fragmented efforts that brings out PhD students in a collaborative fashion between multiple universities with sufficient skills, but they're very few in number. So the comprehensive effort, the cohesive effort to go towards the final output of a larger number of agricultural students trained in the soft skills and entrepreneurship that is necessary to take the next generation and agriculture forward. That has been the central theme of our discussions. So now I'll give the floor to Wayne.
So thank you, Shobha. It's been a pleasure to work with our chair and co-chair, and also the contribution from all of the participants in Theme 3. I think the starting point for our proposal is the fact that tackling these global challenges is going to require international collaboration. It's going to also require a renaissance in terms of skills, the type of skills that are required, and also the type of new leadership that's going to requires, in fact, a complete renewal of training and skills acquisition. So we propose, and I will be reading this, a unified stakeholder undertaking that builds capacity to reduce poverty and ensure healthy diets from sustainable food systems in the face of emerging challenges through strengthening agricultural research, entrepreneurship, and ICT, attracting and retaining youth in agriculture, and materialized through a three-pronged approach. Number one, 1,000 additional PhD graduates trained per annum in next-generation, future-relevant agricultural research with a strong focus on multidisciplinary approaches. Two, a higher education reform across 100 universities over 5 continents that combines multidisciplinary training in agricultural-related sciences with skills in leadership, entrepreneurship, interpersonal relationships, and team building. 3, continuing professional development in agriculture for innovation and entrepreneurship in agricultural practices, products, and services. Transcending fragmented efforts, building a coalition of academia, public and private sectors, and keeping digital agriculture as a central theme. We aim for the delivery of of a vibrant new generation of agricultural researchers and entrepreneurs to tackle these grand and some so-called wicked challenges of the 21st century.
Thank you very much. I would like just to add that we gain a lot from yesterday's visit to the Agricultural Research Council of South Africa, and this really enriched a lot our discussions because it was all about how to make science relevant and future focused. I would like to thank our rapporteurs, starting from Grace Delia from ILRI, and we have Professor John Kennelly, the president of GCARD3. We have Ido Dror from also ILRI. So thank you all of you for, and Abdullah, of course, from the FAO. Thank you to all of you for the reporting. So our sessions were animated by, or facilitated, not facilitated, but animated by 11 catalyst who really brought in key issues that were discussed around 2 discussion sessions, but we also have 6 panelists from India, from Africa, from Canada, and from Europe, who also brought in a lot of diversity in the results we obtained. So thank you very much. I think we will share later on more detailed outcome from our work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Asatu, Shoba, and Wayne, for Theme 3. Theme 4, we have Jethro Green as the chair. Jethro has been very brave in this process because 2 of his co-chairs, Wale Adekuni and Salima Mazuki, were both unable to travel to South Africa for visa reasons. So he has been assisted by Pamela, and I believe at least 1 other co-chair, and while Jethro, it's a question of whether you want to invite them or just acknowledge them, but Jethro is going to present Theme 4, and then we were almost done.
Thank you very much. As usual, the farmers have always had to fend for themselves, so it was a team effort. So let me say that the contribution that is made by the leadership was provided by everyone. I was just a facilitator in the group, and I would like to acknowledge the fact that even the drafting, preparing of the text was done jointly by the group and supported by my 2 co-chairs. So those of you who are in Group 4, can you stand to let people know who the leaders of the group was? Or have everybody gone and disappeared? Team 4, push up your hand, stand up and take a bow because they did a fantastic job. All right, deserve it. We just finished some typing, so I'll go through the notes that we have. We came up with 6 subheadings. In terms of clustering and grouping of small farmers, we agreed that clustering and grouping of small farmers should be recognized as a key tool in getting greater involvement and participation in research and development. Clustering and capacity building are important for linking farmers to finance, competitive market, as well as key to development, improving the business and the sustainable business and profits of farmers. Farming as a business should be a key driver in research and development with focus on the business aspect, linking to profitable markets, and research should also include and look at the social implication for various stakeholders, not just research as if you're robots. Support is needed for farmers' organizations, group and cluster, to build strategic partnership along the value chain to increase sustainable profits. It is imperative to incorporate youth, not as leaders of the future, but of leaders as today, so that we can bring and breathe more life into agriculture and farming, and it must not be based on retirement. Under value chain partnership, we talk about building strategic partnership in value chain for more profits, recognizing and respecting local traditional farming method and knowledge. We talk about the key to designing research and development activities involving farmers as active research partners, and also they're playing a key role in the selecting of thematic areas for research and development, and not the top-down approach as is accustomed to in many countries. Number 3 was evidence-based and demand-driven data. Measures need to be taken to develop evidence-based and demand-driven data to enrich and influence policy to benefit our small farmers. There also has to be a strategy to provide data and evidence to attract financing to small farm sector. Practical-oriented research with the sharing of experiences and good practices can also shorten the distance between farmers, technology, learning, and at the same time, give adequate respect for local indigenous knowledge. Post-harvest and post-harvest losses can be reduced through research that produce appropriate technology to assist farmers, and also greater investment in value addition along the value chain. And number 4, adequate protection for small farmers, access to resources. We need to recognize and protect and support farmers against negative action in a number of areas of large-scale displacement of lands. Small farmers that produce 75% of the world food supply should be supported in capacity building, business skill development, clustering methodology, so that they become a key and focus area for the advancement and development of our societies. And this must be a key priority. Number 5, investment, innovation platform, and making farming as a business. Innovation platforms, and we use examples of those in Africa and the Caribbean, modes of clustering farmers and giving them access to technology, to financial benefit. It is useful to invite all stakeholders, farmers, those who supply materials, government, everyone, to help work with the farmers to identify problems and solutions together. Making farming as a business need us to move from the model of subsistent farmers to profitable farming. That does not say that people must not grow food for their own home use. But where we're saying the mentality of subsistent farming have kept back, have not created the environment for investment and the same investment you find in regular business. And what we're saying, farmers bring to the table lands and skill. And we need to take this and turn it into a profitable business. So profitable that their children can be proud and say, I'm going to inherit a business. I want to take over my dad or my mom business. And we are very strong on that. And we are saying that it is useful that we create this environment that would bring technology, new seeds, relevant fertilizer, new machinery to help make this profitable business, and then generate interest also in young people. The Juan Cutlass culture is not going to be the effective way of attracting young people into our culture. We've got to use technology to ensure that we really attract them, and at the same time, improve and upscale agriculture to the level that it would really contribute more, not only to food security, but also to job and employment creation. Making farming as a business, move from the model of subsistence to real business farming. Under social inclusion, we said in addition to food and nutrition security, we're talking about some of the key thematic areas that we think we must focus on when we're doing agriculture research and development. Proper water management. These must be factored in along with the social element in designing our research and development. Looking at the public health aspect, nutrition. A large percentage of the deaths in the world come from non-communicable diseases. This affects not only the social aspect of the society, it affects every aspect, increased health bill, etc. Research can play a key role in attacking this problem, working together with farmers' organizations, linking agriculture to nutrition, health, and food security. These are the kind of measurable things that every government would love and put more budgetary money into research. But we must focus this showing the result. We must be able to say, if we are able to focus this research to get people to use more nutritious foods, it means that we could cut down on the health bill by 10 or 20%. These practical things are the things that would drive government and investors to invest more. And finally, let me say that in presenting these conclusions, we have said, and we have the farmers in the Caribbean Farmers Network, and also my counterpart networks in Africa, have decided that they are not just going to leave this in the hands of the researcher, but we will take leadership on this matter and work along with the various organizations to make this a reality. Because it is in the interest, our own interest, and in the interest of world peace and development that we put forward these suggestions. Thank you very much.
Jethro, thank you for that. That was theme 4. Theme 5, chaired by Iman Al-Kafas, co-chaired by Courtney Paisley and Robin Bourgeois. Courtney and Robin, are you in the audience? Courtney's there. Robin? Robin's not there. Courtney, are you going to come and join? Because Courtney's not going to come and join. Iman, you're on your own.
No,
for theme 5. Courtney, come and join. We have established a trend. You have to follow the trend.
Exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. The theme is on ensuring better rural futures. I am honored to be the chair with Courtney Paisley as the co-chair, and Robin Bourgeois as facilitator, and actually our consultant on foresight. He doesn't want me to say that. But anyway, we thought that since we were the last people to, would you come here? Because I don't want to keep looking at the back, Robin. Don't need to be turning to see you. So we thought, okay, we'll have this presentation with a lot of movement and pictures of smiling people because we are talking about ensuring rural futures, better rural futures. So we had like young people smiling, and we had pictures of photos that we have taken of the session with everyone really working very enthusiastically about the whole thing, and maps and charts. But anyway, so we came here and they said, there are no presentations for this session. So you have us. So we'll try to do our best to replace the maps and the charts and things like that. Anyway, so our rapporteur was Ole Smith. I don't know if he's here again, and Christina Ron. And so this was the team. And what we were trying to do is to envision how we can ensure better rural futures. And the way we have gone through that is through trying to enable the rural populations to develop and select, actually. So first develop and then select from the scenarios that of the future they develop, the most desired, and then use the image of the future scenarios that they have picked into going back to the present to change the present in order to shape the future. So that's the plan, and this is foresight mainly, to develop different scenarios, pick the best you want, and think of it if you apply it to yourselves. That's what we want to apply to communities. Envision the future and go to the present, change the present to have better future. So this is our vision, and the vision that was discussed actually in, of course, in our roundtables about how to realize a better rural future. So the theme expected outcome that we were asked by the management of the conference to achieve is agreement on collective action that contribute to ensuring better futures using grassroots foresight. And that's exactly what we did. I hope we did it properly and correctly. So collective action, I would just give the microphone to my colleague Robin to say collective action, but then you'll give it back to me because I need to say other things. So collective action.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, collective action is defined as per the agreement we had during the partner at the Constituent Assembly of Gcard and then the Partner Assembly as a multi-stakeholder initiative of 3 or more partners, including producers, at national, regional, and or international levels who agree to commit and generate resources for collective actions or advocacy towards shared demand-driven rural development aims. Thank you, Madam.
I have to get it back now.
Sorry.
Okay, so we started by having our panelists, as a matter of fact, and we call them catalysts because they had a role after introducing their experience in foresight and collective action to go after that in the roundtables and be the catalyst of the roundtables. So that's how we designed it. We said we had 6 catalysts that started in the first session. We had 6 sessions like everyone else. The first session was their introduction of their experience in foresight and collective action through a certain number of questions that we had asked them to respond to. So really quick interventions to get the thing started. And then the second session was, again, like people trying to clarify the matter from them and agreeing on what collective action we should be working on when we move to the roundtables. So we started by 7 collective action. And the most beautiful thing actually that happened is that, okay, I'll tell you first the groups that we had. We had farmer organizations, PROPAC, AFA, and COPROFAM. We had the regional fora, Arenina, Kakari, and FARA. We had the young professionals, YPARD, excellent young people. We have the Foundation of South North Mediterranean Dialogue on the Mediterranean. We have territorial foresight in the Institute of Economic Research, and we had the CGIAR represented through Bioversity on balancing diversification and specialization. So it was a very diverse group. Almost everyone was represented. And then they had their collective action that they wanted to put on the table. So we presented the different collective action, and then someone came from, again, we asked if someone had another idea, so someone came from the floor with another collective action, so we ended up having 7. But the thing is that then when they started talking, like, you could see, everyone said, like, I want to join them, I want to join them. So we had, which is really beautiful, because you would think that people would want to keep their work to themselves, but this was an experience when we saw people like, my work can really come under that. So we ended up, after 7, we had 2 collective action. But you will see that it wasn't only that. After we had our roundtables, the surprise was they had the roundtables. People worked very, very hard, but with very good spirit. Then they presented in what Courtney will talk to you about. We had an innovative idea of presenting. And then they said, well, we think we can join each other. So then the 7 that became 2 collective action has ended up being collective action with all these people, as you will see us talking right now. So Courtney will describe to you our roundtables and our surprise innovative way of presenting the findings, and then I'll come back to you.
Okay, so I just want to emphasize that it was the group itself that decided how to organize themselves. It was a self-organizing group of people that decided the best way forward for them and who they wanted to work with. So it really came from, it didn't come from any of us, it came from the people within the group, which was, I think, the really interesting component of it. Then we moved to roundtable discussions. So what we had is we decided to have, well, everyone decided to have 2 quite large roundtable discussions. So we had farmer groups that were discussing amongst themselves of looking at farmers using foresight from different regions of the world. And then we had a lot of regional fora organizations, which also included the YPARD representative as Asia Pacific. And they were looking at, okay, how can we look at these different levels within the regional fora at the regional level, and how these can transfer down to the different scales. And we asked these different groups to come up with a collective action, and if I'm missing anything, let me know, but basically by identifying what their outcomes were, what the milestones would be of these specific outcomes, who the partners are going to be, and then really identifying what resources that they were willing to commit. And we're, of course, talking in terms of time, we're talking in terms of ideas and sharing, so that we had really clear ideas of what would happen. So that was on the first day. And then they developed posters so that they could clearly identify what these were. It was presented this morning. And what the idea was to have a World Cafe so that each group could really have the time to go to the other group to look at each other and see what they have done, to see how they might want to engage within the other group as well. Since we had 2 big groups, we did it, of course, all in a small group discussion, or sorry, in an entire room discussion. And the groups really had a lot of exchange and looked at, where are the common points here? Where can we actually work together? Where do we build on each other? And where do we think that that we can provide value to the other groups. So it was a really strong exchange between the two groups of coming up with these key ideas, how they would work together and how they would work on their own focus.
So the initial thing was that the groups will be like, they will develop actually what they wanted as platforms, but one for the farmers and one for the regional fora. So this was the initial idea, to do collective action on doing capacity building and foresight exercises and action on foresight actually to imagine the future and work on implementing it. After they talk together, and after the word cafe that we had, and they looked at each other's work and they criticized it and they gave input, they said, but we can work together on that. Why do we have to have an alliance for farmers and an alliance for the regional fora with whatever they cover? So they came up with one name or one title for the collective action, and they called it Alliance for Reappropriation of Rural Futures by Local Actors. And this is what everyone that I have listed actually will be working on in the coming 3 years, and they have a certain order of coordination and relationship with each other to achieve their goals that my colleague Robin will explain. And he will also show you these maps that, you cannot see, but just to tell you the amount of part of our Earth that is covered by this collective action. So Robin, please.
Well, actually, it's a pity we cannot show the maps. I know that people are very bored with slideshows with a lot of text and things that are just repeated, but here we had only 2 maps of the world where we had just identified in red the countries which were covered by the organizations of the people who were partners in that discussion. It was quite impressive because it ranged from the Mercosur Ampliado to all Africa, including North Africa and Near East, and the Central Asia and Caucasus, and Asia and the Pacific, with a few, some countries here and there which are not part of it, but because of their institutional belongings, not because they are excluded. So it's quite impressive to see that red part, which is almost all the south part of the world, plus Central Asia and the Caucasus. So we can't display it, sorry for that. What the partners during this discussion agreed upon was to work together to make this alliance working, this alliance for the reappropriation of the futures of the rural areas by the actors, by the peoples who live there. And for that, there is a level of work which is where you need to develop the capacities of people locally to engage in that conversations about their own futures. And for that, the participants considered that the organizations who were best equipped to do that were the farmers' organizations themselves and the local and the civil society organizations, because this is the people who can bring together and engage together local actors at that level. So they agreed that the responsibilities, the facilitating the support for this type of initiatives would be given and would be supported, led by farmers' organizations. Then there is a level where this capacity to engage in forward thinking and think about the future and develop shared visions is not only based at the local level, but also engage people at the national and regional level, because this relates with something that was already presented in Theme 1, which is a trans-scale approach. So if we had the possibility to show you the diagram, it is a trans-scale diagram. So at the national and regional level, we agreed that the responsibility for that would fit better with the regional fora, as they agreed to work together towards the achievement of building shared visions about the future of rural areas together at the national and the regional level. But of course, there is a third dimension, which is to connect all these things together, what will be achieved through the involvement of farmers' organizations and what will be achieved under the supervision and leadership of regional fora into a connected system where all scales are working together to better define the future of rural areas.
So because our people were very active, as a matter of fact, they said, okay, what are we going to do after we finish this conference? And of course, they talk that usually people after conference, they go back, they get busy and all of that, and then when would they connect again? So they developed a plan. So they said that they will exchange, they will write down the specific commitments that they have made, and they will put them on their sites. They restart the engineering of the alliance, so they will start right away in the coming few days, the engineering of the alliance and the structure of it, and then they will communicate to all their partners in their countries and in their regions and in their organization the agreement to work on collective action to reappropriate agriculture and agriculture research to the local actors, as in the way that Robin has described. So in the coming 3 months, we should have this actually up and running, and they will be communicating together and doing foresight to realize the future. In 3 years, I think we would have the future probably being realized. So at least parts of it, the ones that they will work on. So finally, we reached our outcome statement that will come into the final declaration of the program. And I will just mention pieces of it because it was supposed to show on the screen. So it's mainly establishing a foresight platform, which is the alliance we talked to you about, that brings together farmers from all the regions that Robin has described with research and innovation actors from around the world, again, to develop and select preferred future scenarios. So that's the first step. The second step is out of these future scenarios, selected ones, to collectively plan, design, and implement initiatives to change the present, to shape and achieve the desired future. So that's the outcome that we are presenting to the conference, and that's exactly what they will be working on. Last thing, I would like to actually thank them all very, very much. It was really like a very enthusiastic group from all over the world. There are some that had left the conference already, but I would like you to join me in thanking them. So if you can stand up, please. Those who are there, those who are not there, do not stand up. And we will just absolutely... absolutely committed, serious, punctual, goal-oriented group. Keep it up, and we are all together. Thank you so much for your patience with us, and thank you. Have a good end of conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Iman. So that brings us to the conclusion of the summary presentations covering the outcomes of the 5 thematic sessions. GCARD is a process, and this process involves building upwards from regional and national consultations through this global event, through the thematic sessions, and the process of building outcomes, and those outcomes coming to a final statement at the end of the process. So we had a process which involved speakers, they became catalysts. We had a process which involved outcomes, and they became collective actions. We had slides, and they became a mystery. So now we have coffee, and we are running behind. I'm rather going to say we will progress through coffee to the next session. However, coffee is an essential foodstuff, and those of you who don't need coffee will probably need tea. So we are running a bit behind. We're going to take 20 minutes for coffee, and then we'll move to the next session, and Dr. Mapudi will pick up and present a more global overview of the outcomes of the whole process. Huh? Happy? Thank you very much.